just a poor job, just defensive coverage execution, and just didn't trust each other. Not enough passing. That was a lot of game. Not enough passing. I think that's a consistent thing when we don't play well. We don't pass to each other. We don't execute defensively.
There was one moment during the run where Hachimura was isolated on the corner for good 50 seconds. It seemed like a shot clock violation. Is that something that you think one of those things you can see on tape and you think could happen more often? I'm not saying that it doesn't happen a lot, but just that specifically where we in that energy and that effort defensively.
Yeah, I mean, again, our group has shown in flashes that so much of that comes down to the offensive end of the passing ball.
How much of that is just decision making? How much of that is coverage? I guess you guys, are teams doing things to kind of make a shot more appealing to your primary ball handlers, or sets and stuff like that that aren't happening?
Yeah, probably just a little bit.
How much do you look at your leaders and LeBron and look to rectify that simply because they are the ones?
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be a trust factor with all that. It's just to trust the pass, and that starts with Luka. He's going to have the ball the most with everyone. He's got to trust the pass. He gets two on him. He's playing in a crowd. He can pass the ball. And I think as much as we can talk about being connected on defense, you got to be connected on offense.
I think I wasn't there, but it seemed like trust was another common topic post game. How much can that just wane from game to game with, I guess, throughout
With our group?
Just in, well, we might touch on that, sure, but just throughout a season or with your group specifically.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, again, I think it just goes back to the human element of everything. And guys are worried about their futures, and that's what happens when you get a team full of free agents and player options, which is natural if you're worried about the offense. I've been there, getting your head a little bit. Not 5 minutes, haven't had a shot yet. That's a human thing. It's not anybody's fault.
Just to be clear, you're talking about in general there, or discussions you've had with guys on your team about where the spot they're in, and having some of those thoughts in general. What would you describe the second half shift in energy to? Do you think that the trust in passing was better, or would you say it was other factors?
I think it was just defensively again. It's another really good defensive half from us. To under 15. Thought some of the stuff we tried early was better in the second half, but is what we always talk about is it starts with execution. You have to be able to execute. So we want our bigs up to touch, they're not up to touch. Studying this, you're not up to touch. We give up 1.3 points per possession. Pick and roll. All up to touch. We give up about 0.75. So we have to touch. Then once you're up to touch, that's effort. So it's effort and execution. I'm not going to sing out of those games. We had multiple floods versus Kawhi and Harden that were literally force the ball baseline. The help was allow the ball to come middle, set out the middle, and allow the ball to go middle, and they hurt us every time. So you got to be able to execute, and then so we executed well on some fires and some different coverages in the second half. The effort was on par with the execution, and I thought the Rui play was a great example of just effort and pride on the ball, and then Vando was great the second half. We played small. We battled on the defensive glass. I thought LeBron for what seems like the 20th straight game, it just gave us the empty tank and gave us everything we had.
Playing small, DeAndre had an eye problem. How is he doing the other day with his eye?
No. He seemed fine with the eye. I know it bothered him at one point. He was oscillating between no goggles or goggles. I'm sure it bothered him a little bit.
I think you mentioned something about Jackson playing through his minutes restriction in Denver. Is he still on his restriction now? How's he doing after the incident?
He's normal minutes.
Sportsnet Lakers brought to you by your Toyota dealers. We make it easy. Chris McGee, Mike Bresnahan, James Worthy, got Mike Trudell down there at the Intuit Dome. Lakers lose to the Clippers. They fell down by as many as 26 points in the third quarter, and then a furious comeback. They cut it to 2 points, guys, with just under 6 minutes left. The Clippers answered on a 10-0 run. The Lakers then got it back to within 3 with just a couple of minutes. And I'll be honest, guys, they had a lot of looks at it. The Lakers, they had some three-point attempts that were right there and just didn't fall. And James, when you want to dive in deeper to this game, you know, out-rebounded by 14. Also, there was that span, second to third quarter, 7 minutes and 30 seconds left in the second, all the way to 8 minutes left in the third. That's almost 11 minutes of basketball where they only scored 9 points.
Yeah.
And that's when you fall down by as many as 26. Great effort to get back in it.
Yeah, that drought really hurt them, Peter, when they couldn't score and they went down 26 points. That just made it very difficult to use the energy to come back. But I thought, like you said, they had some opportunities, some big wide open threes that they couldn't capitalize on. And then, for me, they couldn't neutralize Zubac at all. He was a beast in the paint from the beginning to the end. I also thought Collins, a guy that was just, eating the Lakers up, getting into the lane. And then the bench, they got Brook Lopez, and their bench really performed. But I just think, they're in the third quarter. They got it to 2. It was the fourth quarter, I'm sorry. They got it down to 2. I just thought that was, going to be a chance for them to go ahead and propel, but then they couldn't hit shots. They couldn't, take care of the basketball. And Zubac getting that reverse dunk it right there, they just kind of hurt them there at the end. They just couldn't knock down shots when they needed to.
Almost a carbon copy of the Denver game a couple days ago. Lakers not great in the first half, especially not great defensively, button it up in the second half defensively. Just not enough offense, Geet, in that second half, particularly that third quarter for the Lakers. I thought they made a nice run early in the fourth, Geet. Luka on the bench, Luka getting some rest, and Marcus Smart helped bring him back. Vando, a pretty nice dunk. LeBron, some nice plays. The hustle was there in that fourth quarter. But James, I think the story of the game, you already hit on it, the physicality difference. Zubac had 10 offensive rebounds. The Lakers as a team had only 6. And Ayton only 4 points, 21 minutes, really not a factor tonight. You wonder if his eye was maybe bugging him a little bit, James. You talked about that a lot before the game started. Would that be a problem for him? He just didn't seem like himself tonight.
I think it was. Anytime the first time you wear goggles, it's a visual thing you got to get used to. Whether it's just a little flare here, it just the depth perception kind of. I don't know if that was the case for him, but not the normal game that he wanted to have. Of course. But I just thought, it was a matchup situation too. The Clippers were quick and they were fast. And I thought maybe, I don't know if Jake was in there or maybe some speed or something to help, offset some of that speed that they had. But as you can take a look at the Clippers trio, 19 rebounds, and you mentioned 10 offensive rebounds for Zubac alone, 10 assists for Harden. The Clippers have been playing well, but their support group and their bench is really what